guys doing? Did you guys get how many of you guys had your faces painted? How many of you had your face? Did you guys get that cleared off, everybody? We walked in for dinner and I thought I was like out of a scene from Lord of the Flies or something. It was like kids coming up to me and just, how many of you guys have read Lord of the Flies? That'll make sense. So, well, thank you for having me tonight. Some of you I've met through different churches. Some of you are my students, so I've got a bunch of you. So if I've met you before, raise your hand. That's good. If I've never met you before, raise your hand. So for those, my name is Joe Paris. I'm the spiritual life director at Peoria Christian School. I've been there for 12 years now. I taught middle school Bible for 5 years. And then I met this girl in Texas, and she was really, really pretty, and she talked to me. So I married her. And then her parents were like, well, if you marry our daughter, you have to go to Texas. And I was like, ha, ha, ha. And they're like, no, seriously. And I was like, ha. But they were serious. So we moved to Texas. And so I taught down there for a year, and then we came back here to Peoria because we love the winters. And so came back and taught at PCS, and that's where I'm at now. And so Andy was very gracious. We actually met back in like November, December, and I knew who Andy was, but we never been formally introduced. And so I kind of just talked to him and shared my heart with him and went out to breakfast, and we got to know each other even better, and then got to do a retreat with the people from Riverside. Where are my Riverside people? There you are. So we got to do what Midwesterners do. We went out to a campground in the middle of the wintertime and got to enjoy that and got to just kind of share some things. And Andy said, hey, I'd love to have you come to Mission Peoria. And I thought that would be awesome. I mean, you talk about bucket list stuff in my life. Mission Peoria is one of them. Because I love this idea of Mission Peoria. Because one of the things that I do is we send missions trips every year through PCS. I've grown up in the church, and so we've sent missions trips through the church. And I love the idea of missions trips. But I think the thing that misses with missions trips is that kids get fired up to go somewhere, but they never get fired up to be somewhere. And the reality is, in the book of Acts 1:8, he says, you will go out and you will spread the gospel, but it starts in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. Now, we read that today and we go, well, what does that mean? Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. The reality is when he said that, they were in Jerusalem. And Judea was a little bit farther, and Samaria was a little bit farther, and to the ends of the earth was the furthest you could go. Because the reality is, a lot of times we can do missions trips to other countries, but we can't do missions trips here at home because that's where it's really hard. That's where it's hard, where it's the day-to-day stuff. And the reality is, if we were to interpret this passage in Acts 1:8 and we were to say, what does that look like today? It would look something like this. You will be my witnesses in Peoria, Chicago, the Midwest, and to the ends of the earth. And you guys are doing it today. You guys are going to meet people this week, and you're going to see them again and again and again. And the thing is if what you're saying this week doesn't line up with what you're doing next week, they're going to call it off and say, you know what, that's just a bunch of phony. That's what Christianity is, man. It's just a bunch of people saying stuff, but they're not living it. And so you guys have an awesome opportunity to see these people again, and they say, you know what? He's still doing what he told me. She's still living what she said she was living. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I've been on a couple missions trips in my life, but probably the most impactful ministry opportunity I ever had was when I was 22 years old. I just came back from college. I was doing some graduate work up in Chicago, but I was commuting back and forth because I ran out of money and I ran out of plasma, and so I couldn't pay for things anymore. So I had to sleep on my parents. I kid you not about the plasma stuff. I ran out. I woke up one night. I couldn't move my legs. It was like crazy. But I remember I was working at this restaurant here in Peoria. And so every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I would work to pay to go to school in Chicago. And I'd sleep on people's floors. And every day, I would get made fun of because I was a Christian. Everybody at this restaurant, nobody claimed the name of Christ. Nobody went to church. Nobody believed in Jesus Christ. They were living the way that they thought was best for them. And I remember they would always kind of joke with me. We had a good relationship, but I was always kind of, the outsider. I was, as we talk about this week, I was set apart. Hey, we're going out to go drinking this weekend. Do you want to come? And I just say, you know what? Hey, guys, I'd love to hang out with you. If you want to go to Chili's, if you want to go to a movie, if you want to go to somebody's house, I'll do that. But because of my life and because of my ministry working with kids, I just don't think it's a good idea for me to go out drinking with you. And so they would just pester me about that. They would make fun of me about it. Until one Tuesday night, I'm there and I'm walking around and it's kind of a slow night, and these 3 girls came up to me and they were kind of the ringleaders of kind of this criticism. But we had a good relationship, and this girl, Ashley, she comes up to me and she says, what happens when you die? Now, this is post 9/11, so, people are kind of sensitive to this idea. Terrorism was kind of at an all-time high, and so she comes up to me, she says, what happens when you die? And I thought she was just making fun of me again, and so I just said, whatever. And she goes, no, seriously. She goes, what happens when you die? Because the reality is, everybody around here thinks the same way I do, but you're different, you're set apart. So tell me, what happens when you die? And I got really scared because it's not that I didn't know what to say, it's just I'd never really said it before. And so I said, well, hold on for a second. And I kind of did some more things in my area, and I cleaned some tables. And then 2 other girls came with Ashley, and they said, no, really, we want to know what happens when you die. What does the Bible say about life after death? And I said, well, if you guys really want to talk about this, I said, every Sunday night we can meet. I said about 7 o'clock, we can meet in the back of the restaurant, and we can go through the book of John, and we can find out what it says. And I thought for sure they would say no. I thought for sure they're like, no, we ain't doing no Bible study. We're not about that. And their faces lit up, and they said, really? Can we do that? And I thought, oh, crap. I thought, oh no, what have I got myself into? And so I said, okay, yeah, I said we can do it. So the first Sunday night, it's 6:30, and I'm sitting in the back of the parking lot in my car, and I'm kind of going through my notes because I'd never done this before. I never actually sat down with brand new, I guess not even believers, people that were looking for the truth and sharing it. And so I'm going through this, and I kid you not, I'm praying the same prayer over and over and over again. And the prayer was, I pray, Lord, that they don't come. I was so scared of what I was going to do and what I was going to say, and I was going to screw it up. And all of a sudden, 6:50 rolls around, and their cars come in, and they're like, hey, Joe, see you inside. I'm like, yeah, huh? I'm like, I don't. And I go in there, and I open the book of John, and I just start going through, and I don't know what I'm saying, and I'm fumbling over my words, and they're asking questions, and I don't even know if I'm giving really good answers. But I said, so what do you guys think? And they said, this was great. Let's do it again. So next Sunday night comes around, and they come again. And next Sunday night comes around, and they come again. And every Sunday night, in the back of this restaurant in Peoria, a group of girls and I would meet, and we would go through the book of John. And one of the last times we met, this is a crazy story. I still get goosebumps thinking about it. One of my managers, her name was Karen. And Karen had made it very obvious that she was not a follower of Christ. That just wasn't her thing. She wasn't opposed to it, just wasn't her thing. And we're sitting back there, and we're going through the book of John, and she just keeps walking around our area. She keeps coming around our area. And hey, do you guys need anything? Do you guys need any more drinks? You need more water? You guys need anything you need to eat? And it's almost like to the point of like, you're just like, no, we're good. You just keep coming around here. I don't know what's going on. And finally, the last time Karen comes around, and she doesn't ask us for anything, but she asks us, she says, can I sit down and just listen? And I thought, all of this time, I've been thinking I've been serving food at this restaurant, and I've been doing a mission field. You guys are a mission field in Peoria. You do not understand. Hey, if you're going to go to Korea, that's great. If you're going to go to Colombia, that's great. If you're going to go to the ends of the earth, that's great. But do it here in Peoria, because you will change lives, because people will see you on the day-to-day. And when they're ready to talk, they're going to go and find somebody who's set apart. They're going to go and find somebody who's different. And I want to talk about that tonight, what that looks like. So let's go ahead and pray, and let's go ahead and get started. Let's pray. Father.